Hello, my friends. Welcome to the first episode of a brand new series in our journey of self love, the hidden ways we shrink ourselves. And this is episode 42. Over the next few weeks, we will be exploring why we sometimes shrink inwardly or retreat in our lives and the impact that it has on our confidence, our relationships, and our personal growth. In each episode, I'll unpack different aspects of how we think, why we do it, and how we can reclaim our space. So, why this series? Every day I experience people expanding and shrinking. In conversations, I can feel it when someone's expanding and feeling confident and feeling empowered to speak and to be themselves and to be heard. And then I also experience people just withdrawing and shrinking and not feeling safe to be themselves, to say what's on their mind, to stand their ground. So, I've had so many experiences in society, personal experiences, and self-doubt is a way that really causes us to shrink. So this series, you'll hear different perspectives, including real stories from people who've been through it, experts sharing strategies for breaking free from shrinking. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and we are in our brand new series, The Hidden Ways We Shrink Ourselves. This is a three-part series, a three-episode series where we'll dive into those hidden ways we shrink. Let's take a quick look at what's coming up in the next few weeks. So for episode 1, I'm calling it the silent shrink. We'll talk about ways we shrink ourselves without realizing it, especially in everyday situations, from holding back our opinions, to not speaking up for ourselves. There's so many ways where we just shrink, and we default to certain behaviors and certain responses that we don't even know we're doing it. Episode 2, we're going to dive into bullies and liars. Why do people shrink others? What are they hiding? We'll explore the behavior of bullies and liars and how can we deal with them while keeping our own power intact. In episode 3, we're going to talk about reclaiming your power. And in this final episode, we'll talk about practical ways to stop shrinking and how to step into our full authentic selves with confidence. For each episode, we'll come up with hacks on how to deal with particular situations that's applicable to you. So let's start with the first idea that we'll tackle in the series: shrinking without even realizing it. Maybe you're someone who doesn't speak up in meetings, or you feel you don't deserve to take up space in certain situations. Have you ever been in a place where you feel stuck, or the words just don't seem to come out, or you don't have the courage to say what you need to say, or someone tells you how you feel? Have you been there? Just it feels like you don't have a voice, or when you try to speak, you just not heard. So sometimes we just kind of back off and shrink. If we don't speak up, we keep shrinking inside. In these moments, we shrink in subtle ways. It's not always obvious. Maybe you make yourself smaller to avoid conflict, or you hide your brilliance because you're afraid of standing out. Some people are just uncomfortable if they feel like if they show their brilliance or show what they are able to do, it comes across as having a chip on your shoulder. And usually people that feel that way are not going to come across that way. So here's a personal anecdote. I know I've done this, especially when I felt I've been taken advantage of, or someone feels they need to speak on my behalf while I'm right there. Uh, It feels like I'm insignificant, or I'm not present, or I'm not capable enough to responding for myself or saying what's on my mind. It's like your true self gets put on the back burner for a bit. Um, so when we shrink, we limit our own potential. It affects how we show up in the world. Shrinking can lead to feelings of frustration, of anxiety, even depression. You may start to feel like you're not worthy of success or happiness. You may feel like your opinion doesn't count or doesn't matter because no matter what you say, the message is not transmitting. The other person just cannot hear it. Why? Because they are in their own story. And let me tell you, a lot of those stories are selfishness. Because when we cannot hear what someone else is saying because we're in our own story, that is being selfish, right? And it could be sometimes we are that way too. We're not hearing what someone else is saying. And then we are in our own selfish story. Over time, the shrinking becomes a habit. We stop going after what we want and we kind of stay small to avoid confrontation, or like, okay, I'm not going to say anything, or "Yeah, I tried and it's not working," or what's the point of saying something, nothing changes. So we miss opportunities that are truly ours. But what if we stopped shrinking and began to own our space instead and still honor what the other person is saying? But the key here is to own our space. Own your space. So let me give you a preview of the next few episodes. In episode 1, we'll dive deeper into everyday situations where we shrink without realizing it, and we'll start looking at ways to step into our power even in those moments. In episode 2, we're going to talk about bullies and lies, like I said. People who shrink others, and what's really going on underneath that behavior. This is really important because often when others try to shrink us, it's a reflection of their own insecurity. And in episode 3, we'll get real about reclaiming your power. We'll discuss practical ways to stop shrinking, whether it's learning to speak up, to own your space, or to stand your ground when necessary. Now, I know some of you may say, yeah, Chloe, you know what? That's easy for you to say. I'm faced with someone in front of me that it's hard to even speak. Let me tell you, rest assured, I've been there. I have been there. And I've found some tricks and hacks to have those conversations. Um, so in these 3 episodes, you're not going to just only be hearing from me. We'll hear real stories from people who have dealt with this, who have shrunk, who have been shrunk by others, who have found ways to break free. I don't know if you've watched that movie, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. We don't want to feel that way. We don't want to look like that. We don't want to go around living our lives looking like we're that small and the world is this big. And also I've spoken to someone who realized they were shrinking at work and took steps to change their mindset. We'll also hear from someone who faced bullying in their personal life and learn how to reclaim their confidence. So we'll also have a panel discussion with a few executive coaches who's going to shed light on the limiting beliefs, behind why we shrink and how can we start healing those wounds. So here's my call to action for all of you. I want to leave you with something to think about. Where in your life are you shrinking? As I spoke now, was there something that came up for you? Was it something that resonated and you said to yourself, yes, Chloe, that's me? There is a situation, is there a situation or a relationship where you're holding yourself back? You're not speaking your truth, or you're pretending to be smaller than you really are, or you're pretending to be okay. So the other person doesn't even know that there's a whole lot of narrative that's going internally here that doesn't agree or that is not sitting with what in the conversation. This week, I challenge you to notice these moments. Just notice them. What would happen if you gave yourself permission to take up space in those situations? Reflect on that and be ready to take that first step in next week's episode. But I will leave you with a hack for this week. While you're noticing, every time you notice yourself shrinking, say this to yourself: Allow yourself to be yourself. Allow yourself to be yourself, and you can end with your name. For example, I'm going to say, allow yourself to be yourself, Chloe. Allow yourself to be yourself, Chloe. Don't give yourself permission. You don't need permission. You just allow yourself. You just go ahead and do it. Just allow yourself to be yourself. Okay, so that's all for today's pilot episode. I'm so excited for what's to come in the in the series, and in the next three episodes. We're going to dive into silent ways we shrink ourselves in everyday situations. So make sure to tune in. Thanks for listening, and remember, you don't have to shrink to fit in. You have every right to take up your space and shine in the world. Until next week, take care.